How is it going? Are there many people there?
That's good. Yeah. Um, Sue, you can probably get started whenever you're ready.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name's Sue, and I'm one of the 1 million women's delegates. There's 3 of us here tonight, and we'll be sharing different responsibilities at different times and doing different things. And I'll introduce each of them as they come on the scene. But I just want to explain that we will record tonight, and we would like you to have your microphones off so that there's not noisy stuff in the background. And then now I would like to do an acknowledgement of country. That's something that I think has been a wonderful thing for Australia, and I think it's important to say that most of us will still do it, even if a certain other person doesn't want us to do it. So I'm going to acknowledge that and pay my respects to the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island people, and acknowledge that there could be some in the audience tonight, and I hope there is, and a very special welcome to you. But I'm actually on Yuin country. Some of you will be on possibly other country, but even within the Yuin country, there are lots of different tribes, and the tribe that I'm closest to and know the best are the Geringer and the Wreck Bay peoples, 2 very proud communities that work very hard, and I feel very privileged indeed to live and work, not work actually, live and walk, do voluntary stuff that just exist on this beautiful country. I'm going to go further and say that I acknowledge that they are the oldest continuous living culture in the world, and their sovereignty of their land was never seized. They are people that have had a commitment to this community, this culture, and I respect the unbroken and continuous connection they've had to land, water, sea, and air. I think that's what we're trying to do, lessons learned from those people. We're trying to do that here tonight. And so, yes, we want to recognise that I've lost my place. You can see I'm looking over here. But yeah, we are here tonight to look after, to try and help this country look after the land and the sea, the air, and make good what we've neglected in the past. Now, having said that rather serious thing, I hope I've said it in a way that you are happy with, without my stumbling and everything else, but I do say that from my heart. So I'm going to say now hello to everybody in the chat room and welcome you here. If you like, you can have your videos on and give us a wave and write in the chat where you come from, and if you're dying to ask a question, now you can start putting them in, but you're welcome to add more questions, limitless, and go for it. So I'm now going to ask Brodie, one of the co-hosts tonight, a very wonderful woman who heads up the campaigns for 1 million women, who I met and spent time with in Canberra, and can assure you she is brilliant. She's got a good name, Brodie for brilliant. She's going to tell you a little bit about the history behind 1 million women and where we're up to. Thanks, Brodie.
Thank you so much, Sue, for that wonderful welcome to the country. And also, I'd like to acknowledge that I am coming to you from the Gadigal people here in Sydney, but which is where I live now. But I did grow up in Gilmore. I grew up in Paula Bay. My parents still live there, so definitely still have a connection to this place. And yeah, it's a very special area, very big electorate. So there's so many different zones, but it's special, as you all know. Yeah, if you want to just chuck your videos on for a quick second just to say hello, we'd like to just see all the faces, even if you want to turn them off for the actual discussion. We just love to see everyone for a quick second just to, yeah, kind of become familiar with everyone and have a little wave. Yes, very much appreciate. And yeah, I'm coming on tonight to just provide a little bit of context and just an overview of what Women has been doing in this space and why we're really focused on electrification. A couple of years ago, we really wanted to figure out what work was going to make the biggest impact for this very decisive, important decade. And we thought we'd focus on households because we've always talked about the individual and individual impact and how we are important. Every little thing that we do has an impact. And so households was the perfect place to start. Australia's 10 million households are responsible for 10 to 15% of all the climate pollution produced here in Australia. And you can double that figure if cars are involved, so closer to about 20%. So if we really think about that figure, that's a massive amount that we have the ability to impact. We can eliminate this pollution by replacing gas appliances, petrol and diesel cars with efficient electric alternatives. And we can power our homes with solar wherever possible. And here in Australia, we are very much leading the world in rooftop solar. So it's something that we've taken on board, and we have this incredible resource here, a very sunny country. So we saw this as the perfect place to really focus our efforts. We've been educating women for the last couple of years on how to electrify their homes. We've pulled together various different experts to kind of share different aspects, whether it be hot water heating or solar or any number of things, retrofitting, all of this. And we also went to Canberra, as Sue mentioned, with an incredible delegation of 23 women from across the country, all different states and territories. We all went to Canberra to ask something very specific and clear. We want government support for 1 million households to electrify or take steps to electrify within the next term of government. And so we had 26 meetings, and they were varied, the discussions, but they were all very positive. We heard from so many different, politicians from across the spectrum. We wanted to talk about solutions, and even though particular policy details could differ between different politicians, different parties, et cetera, we think it's something that everyone can get behind because it's talking about cost of living, it's talking about the environment, and there are clear positive aspects to electrification in various different places. Whether you care about financial, whether you care about the environment, all of it, it's kind of a win-win, which is why it's a nice place to focus. And our aim when we were in Canberra was really to connect the real women's stories to the federal political discourse, which sometimes feels a little bit disconnected. And there's so many women's stories out there. We really know that our community wants to electrify because we've had so many different, we've had so much feedback. Last year we had our annual survey, and 4,400 women did this, and 90% of them told us that they had taken steps to electrify, or they had taken steps to make their homes more energy efficient and bring down their power bills. And we received thousands of positive electrification stories, which was so great to hear. But we also were told that there's many barriers that women face as well, like the upfront costs, lack of government support. So it's a big discussion, but there are a lot of positive solutions as well, which is why we're really excited about it. It was interesting that just under 60% of women said that they would take advantage of electrification incentives and rebates to get their household off gas if they are available. So that's kind of what we're pushing more in the space of policy. That's kind of what we were talking to politicians about when we were down in Canberra. And we also asked if they had voted for a candidate or a political party because of strong climate policy. And 80% of women said they have done before, and 75% said that they would in the next 3 years, which obviously includes this next election, which is fast approaching. So we really believe if we want to see these policies come to fruition, one of the most powerful things we can do is vote, and vote from an informed place. So that's why we're doing tonight's event. And what we wanted to bring together was sharing and hearing from each of the candidates in Gilmore and where they stand on the issues that matter to you. So we're really excited that everyone could be joining us on the call and that the candidates are here on the call, so we can have that open dialogue. People ask questions and you can hear the responses, and hopefully you can come away with a bit more understanding of what the candidates stand for, what their vision is for Gilmore, and how they want to advocate and represent you if they are voted in. So thank you, Sue.
Well, thanks, Brie. Look, I'm really excited about this chat. I did go on this delegation, and it was very good. I don't think we came out of any office without shifting or giving them an idea or even some extra homework to do. And I think the announcements that have happened over the last week in particular showed that they did listen to us, because they've actually made announcements relevant to what we were asking for. But I've been passionate about the environment for I don't know how long. I belong to Our Future Shoalhaven and Keep Jervis Bay Unspoiled. In fact, I helped set them up. And then 1 Million Women came along, and I have to say it lifted me tremendously to think that there was 1 million women thinking the same, wanting the same. It did you, because it's very easy to feel isolated in this space sometimes in certain parts of this community as well. And then South Coast is the south coast of New South Wales is a scary place in terms of climate change. It's very confronting, and we live and very much aware of the risks that we are taking by not doing something about climate. So with all of that in mind, I'm so thankful that we've got 3 women candidates, all women candidates, and joining us today. We did invite a certain other non-woman candidate who isn't here, but it's wonderful to see you 3, and I know we're going to have a great conversation. We've got Fiona, who is our MP and the Labour Party, of course, and standing again this time. We've got Debbie Killan, and Debbie's standing for the Greens for the first time. She's standing for Parliament. And we've got Kate Dezarnaulds. She's going to give us a wave. And Kate is standing as an independent, backed by Climate 200. And she is also standing for the first time. And I know 3 of you are very busy championing your causes out there. And we're going to give you every opportunity to tell us how wonderful you're going to be with climate. So thanks. And what do I do next? What's my next step?
You don't need to do anything. It's fine. I'm going to jump in now.
With Paula, she's going to now. Paula's going to tell us all about the next steps in the process.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I'm Paula. I'm from the 1 Million Women team too. I just want to acknowledge that I'm calling in from Wallamadigal country, which is in northwest Sydney, part of the Darug Nation, where I live and work. Tonight's event is going to be great. It's an opportunity for all the attendees, everybody who's here, to ask questions of the candidates. It's not intended as a debate, so candidates we don't need to, we're not rebutting, etc. We are expressing our policies and our views. We're going to try and manage responses to about a minute so that we can stay on track and get through as many questions as we can. Like Sue said early on, if you've got any questions, throw them in the chat now. identify if you've got something directed to one particular candidate. We'll get them to answer first, and then we will then ask if the other candidates would like to respond as well. We will, after we do the Q&A session, Sue is also going to give us a quick overview on our preferential voting system. That's really important to understand it. It seems confusing, but once you've got it explained, it can actually make a bit more sense. And it's so important to understand it to be able to vote for your values and to be able to vote strategically. So without further ado, we've got a couple of questions that we're going to start with. Sue's going to ask one and I'll ask one, and then we'll throw to the chat just to set the scene. Thank you. Sue,
Yeah. Okay. So I'd like to ask the three candidates exactly why you're standing. That's not an easy question. We're unfortunately keeping you to a minute, so I know some of you can talk a lot longer than that, but yeah. Anyway, we'll get you to tell us why you're standing, and what have you experienced so far in this period of campaigning that might have surprised you or left you thinking about? And maybe I introduced you before in one order. This time I'm going to ask Debbie to go first.
Hi. I'm on Wandindian land in Yuin country, just south of Sue. And it's good to be here, and I recognise the custodians of the land too. Why am I standing? Well, I have worked for a long time in the background of election campaigns for the Greens, and I think politics are very important, and I'm very proud of the Greens Party. This time I'm standing because over the last years since the bushfires, really, it's become more and more urgent to me that the things that are vital for the planet especially and around reversing climate change or slowing climate change are not being taken seriously enough. So I have reached the point where somewhat reluctantly, it's time to actually sort of step out front and be a politician about it. What surprised me about the campaign so far? Not too much. I guess pleasantly surprised, not entirely surprised, that about the warmth of acceptance of young people of the Greens policies. That I kind of knew that they were on the same wavelength as us, and I'm really delighted that a number of young people that I've met are really happy to embrace a grassroots movement style party like us. So I guess that's been my best surprise.
Thank you, Deb. Thank you. Fiona, I was going to ask you that question second. And yes, if there's anything else you'd like to say about yourselves, obviously this is the time.
Sure. So hi everyone, Fiona Phillips. I'm the member for Gilmore and proudly the Labor candidate in this federal election. I have been a member for Gilmore since 2019. Primarily, I am a mum of 4 young adults. I'm married to my husband, who's a small business owner. Look, I grew up on a dairy farm. I've seen a lot of change over that time as well. But look, what really inspires me is my community. So some time ago, back in 2009, my local council wanted to close the local Nowra swimming pool. I really stood with my community and really led that campaign to stop that happening. It taught me a lot. I saw a lot of things that I didn't like. I realised that elected representatives got to make decisions and impact not only people's lives, but their entire communities and their planet and world as well. So for me, I feel a great, deep responsibility as being a parent. I have 7 adults living in my house. So a lot of those, and 3 dogs, and a a lot of those pressures, like I get, like, you know, there's many families around facing those, you know, those pressures, particularly around housing. Look, I live at, I'm Brianna, I know you said from Kalala Bay, I live at Kalala Beach, and I also come proudly from Derrinja, Wandian country. I live on Jervis Bay, the most, I'm a bit biased, but absolutely stunningly beautiful. I am very appreciative of not only Jervis Bay, but our beautiful, our bushland, our creeks. I love mountain biking. I love walking in the bush. And for me, it's about ensuring that we have a beautiful area for future generations to come. So I guess when you say, why am I running again? I'm pretty passionate about our transition to renewables. And the thing I would say is, and this comes from experience as being an MP, I think it's easy to say people can, you know, do something or put in a policy, but it's harder to actually implement it. And that's one thing I've been taught. I sit on, you know, Labor's Sustainable Australia policy. So I am very much at the forefront of any legislation or draft bills to do with the environment, to do with climate, to do with agriculture, disaster management, you name it. So I think it's really difficult. And I think, you know, for me as a person in my household, I wouldn't say that we are, you know, I'm pretty normal, you know. I've actually got, so I'm actually quite proud of this. Not that I actually planned it this way, but, you know, we do have solar, hot water, we have no gas. We managed to get rid of gas. So that's pretty good. I'd love to put in a battery. So we've got a great policy around that with rebates. But, you know, I haven't got all the way there, but I think it is about taking that personal responsibility as well. So for me, that's what really drives me, community and people, and making sure that we have a planet and our local community that's going to be there for future generations. I look at my children, I look at my friends' children, and their grandkids coming through as well. And we have a huge responsibility to get it right. But that also means the correct implementation. What surprises me, I'm not sure much surprises me anymore. This is my 4th federal election campaign. Look, I think probably what surprises me, and I don't want to be too negative here, but the misinformation around some of the things that I see, particularly around, you know, offshore wind and things like that, is really, really difficult. And I think to stay focused, on track, and just, you know, keep to yourself what's true to you, because you know what is right in terms of moving forward, you know, like this forum as well. I think, yeah, so it's probably surprised me that the level of misinformation and disinformation out there, but, you know, you just got to push through it.
Yes. Well, thanks for that, Fiona. That is a very interesting point at the end, and I couldn't agree more. Kate, let's have a little background on you and how are you going in this first campaign, and what surprised you?
Thank you so much, Sue. So I'm Kate Dezarnaulds. I'm the Community Independent candidate. I am surprised to be spending my 2025 running for federal election. It certainly wasn't part of my plan, so maybe that's the first surprising thing. I'm a small business owner. I'm a mother of 3 teenage kids. I'm a tradie wife. My husband's a builder, and my business is a network of regional co-working spaces.
I'm listening. I'm just going to put my dog outside.
Totally fine.
I am listening.
And I would call myself a community kind of volunteer, not-for-profit kind of tragic. I'm renowned in my small town as the person who frequently says yes to things that other people say no to. And I think it's for that reason and the work that I did after the bushfires, running a grants program, helping locally governed not-for-profit organisations to be more connected and more resilient, It's for that reason I was asked to run as a community independent candidate for the federal election. And I think, other than being surprised to be here, the other thing that has really delighted me over this process is when I said yes, I thought I was putting a flak jacket on. I was going to kind of put my head down and weather the storm until it was done. I expected the process of politics to be kind of brutal and unpleasant. And I have to say, I have just had so much fun. It's an absolutely incredible thing. It's the total antidote to despair is standing up and being an intervention into what I think is a broken system. We need so much more courage on the things that really count to my teenagers and to me. We need to kind of buckle in and get the job done on the energy transition. We need Labor to be more courageous. We need the Liberals to be more humane. We need to fix the housing, kind of incredible housing pickle we've gotten ourselves into over a long period of time.
Oh no, did we lose Kate?
Yeah.
We've lost Kate.
Maybe while she gets back on, we ask
Yeah.
the next question.
Yeah, well, I'll head into the next question, and then potentially Kate can finish up when she gets on.
That's
So
totally fine. Count that as my minute. I was timing myself, and that was 1 minute and 32 anyway.
you're here. You're back.
I managed to have my laptop die. Never come and do one of these things without a charger. Anyway, I'm back, so I'm here, but continue on.
Okay, that's good to. That was really quick. I must admit, you were gone and then you were back. I'm impressed. So our next question is around cost of living, right? Major issue for Australians at the moment, and we know that it's also linked to the increasing impacts of climate change. We know that Australian households could save $2,000 a year on their energy bills by transitioning to an electric home with solar, batteries, and for EV purchases. Not to mention that the associated health benefits that we're in our house with having electrification, getting off gas. So as Brodie mentioned, we know that our 1 million women community is super keen to electrify. And we know that there are the barriers, the upfront costs. There's barriers for renters. That's a big one. There's barriers for people in social housing and apartment living, and even in rural areas when you're living on property. So when we were part of the Canberra delegation, we had heaps of great conversations, and the comparison between those that have managed to go along the path to electrify and those that are held up by the barriers, potentially, like ladies in social housing. They cannot affect change or to create their own energy independence when we really need to be trying to achieve these things. So the question comes down to, if elected, what initiatives will you be championing in Parliament for household electrification? I'm going to throw to Fiona first. I think we have we done Fiona first, Sue? I'll start with. I'll throw to Fiona first, because obviously the ALP have announced some policies. So if you can give us a brief overview of that, and then we'll go to Debbie and Kate.
Yeah, sure. And I think the main thing I would say here is that all of the policies that we have either had out already or announced are really part of the important transition to renewable energy. So we really recognise that there's a role for everyone in this. We know that in the Gilmore electorate already that there's over 33,000 solar installations. So there's a great appetite for solar to reduce energy costs. So obviously we want to take that further. So, and we recognise that, sometimes obviously there are barriers. So what we have announced recently, which I'm pretty sure everyone would have heard about, is our cheaper home batteries policy. And this is about giving a 30% rebate to really help encourage people to utilise or to put in batteries to take advantage storing that solar energy for when it's needed. And that's really important, not just to reduce energy costs, but to, you know, take that pressure off the grid as well, which benefits everyone. So there's lots of different benefits there. We estimate that on a typical battery, typical home, that could equate to around $4,000 saving in energy costs. So that's a really great one. Some of the other ones that people mightn't be aware of as much, but we've really got, it's called the Household Energy Upgrade Fund, and that's designed to provide existing low-cost finance options to really help reduce those upfront costs for people to upgrade their homes with more modern energy efficient appliances and other energy efficient improvements as well. So there's that one. The other one we have is our social housing energy performance initiative, and this is you know, if you're living in social housing, then obviously it can be very difficult to gain the benefits of rooftop solar and things as well. So this is a really great one as well. We've really extended that out. So we know that particularly people that might live more in, you know, medium density housing or strata, so particularly, you know, people that might live in over 55 complexes, as things like that, that this is really a program that can assist them as well. And then another one that we have is our Community Energy Upgrades Fund. And this is really aimed at local councils. It's really aimed at those, you know, community association buildings, sporting complexes and things like that, to really help with energy upgrades there and to help save with energy bills as well. One of the ones that I really love as well, there's so many, that's the thing, which is great, is our small business energy efficiency grants. And we've been lucky, I think we've had about 20 of the businesses in Gilmore that have taken advantage of these grants. And they're small grants, but they really go to businesses to put in energy efficient appliances. And I've literally got, look, I was in Kangaroo Valley and talking with a local business owner there. They were showing me what they were doing. Like, they were like gurus. They had it all the data on their phone. They knew exactly how much they were saving. Like, they were amazing. Like, and so, you know, it could be a hospitality business. It could be, you know, to caravan parks and to breweries. Like, literally, people are taking these programs up, putting in energy efficient appliances and lots of different types of appliances, and it's helping reduce their energy bills. So there's some of the, I guess, the more tangible ones that particularly households or small businesses could take advantage of. Obviously, we've got, you know, we go into the EV space as well, but if we're talking about homes, I think they're probably the main ones that I would talk about.
And thanks, Fiona. I do love all the memes I'm seeing of people in their solar apps.
Yes.
Get right into the data.
I love it.
Yeah, it's really good.
I must say I'm a bit jealous because I've had my solar for a while and I don't have those apps. So
okay. You need to get onto the apps. Okay, so next I'm going to go to Kate. Thanks, Fiona.
Thanks so much. One of my businesses, so I own a network of co-working spaces, which is called Work Life. It's a network of regional spaces, and one of them is in the suburb of Coaldale. And I'm lucky Dr. Saul Griffith is a good friend of mine, and I have been really intimately involved with the Electrify 2515 pilot program, where Rewiring Australia has received sufficient kind of grant funding and built an amazing support network in the suburb of Coaldale to be able to take every single household within that community community and have them electrify heat pumps for their hot water, to induction cooktops for their cooking, ducted air conditioning, reverse cycle air conditioning for that, and then the missing piece of the jigsaw puzzle is the electric vehicle in the car in the driveway, basically. But working with them, I have seen really up close how extraordinarily powerful it is for an entire community to go on the electrification journey. That is transforming renters as well as opportunities for small business as well as households. At the moment, we are lucky in the electorate of Gilmore, 1/3 of our households have already put solar panels on their roof, and those people are exceptionally proud of the difference that they're making to the planet and the savings they are making to their budgets, and they're quite protective of the revenue that they hope to receive from feed-in tariffs, and a bit worried about things changing over time. But we really need to see experiments like Electrify 2515 extended to other communities. I would be absolutely fiercely advocating for the electorate of Gilmore to be one of the next pilot projects to be able to demonstrate the power of electrification. But we have a bit of a challenge, and that is that part of that picture is around EVs. So in Gilmore, we have 0.8% of the vehicles on our road are electric vehicles. In the cities, that's 15%. In Europe, that's 45%. In Norway, that's 95%. Australia has been the dumping ground for the world forever for for high emission vehicles, and the vehicle emission controls that have been advocated for by the independents are the first thing that is really making a difference to Australia being the dumping ground for high emission vehicles. We've got a big job to convince tradies that it is manly and sexy, and you can tow boats, and you can still be a tradie with a ute that is electric and have your manhood intact. And we've also got to do a big job to make sure that we can get the car batteries to basically be house batteries. So there is technology and transformation, technology which is available, regulation which has to be adjusted, and transformation which is absolutely possible. So the huge opportunity out there is to make sure that we rapidly increase the adoption of electric vehicles, and we start leaning into the potential of car batteries to be home batteries, and that we spread the benefits past the householders to renters and to small businesses.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Kate. And Debbie.
I really hope my internet's going to hold out. I'm getting a couple of unstable messages here, but let's see how.
Just if it starts to get a bit funky,
like my
you can
colleagues,
turn off the video.
yes. Like my colleagues, I will struggle to fit this into a minute, so I'm going to do my best. Electrifying households is very firmly within the Greens policy. We will provide grants to households and low interest loans. So coupled together, a household could get a grant up to $10,000 and a low interest loan up to $20,000 for the purpose of electrifying. So that's your induction cooktops and your heat pumps and all of those things. Small businesses are also included in that, because this is not an easy expense for a small business to cope with. We would give $25,000 up to in grants and up to $100,000 in low interest loans. So that's really a major kickstart for getting electrification done. Similar sort of thing for batteries. So for storage in households, we'd give a grant of up to $5,000 and a low interest loan of up to $10,000. And for a small business, a grant of up to $10,000 and a low interest loan of up to $50,000. These are really important. These are really important amounts. But we're very conscious of renters having a problem. So the new policy that was announced this week around renters is that there will be a program where renters can apply to have solar on the roof. Landlords can't refuse unless there's a structural problem like a body corporate issue or an engineering problem, that sort of thing. The provision of solar and the installation of solar, the panels and the installation, will be provided by the government through the Snowy Hydro scheme, which the reason for that is that it is a publicly owned electricity company already. So they would have a fund provided that could do these projects. Then the renter benefits and the landlord benefits, the panels remain. Is that all right? Can you hear me?
Yep.
The panels remain as the property of the Snowy Hydro scheme until such time as the landlord chooses to pay off the amount, the low interest amount of cost for them and own them, or until the property is transferred either by sale or just transfer. So this is a really important thing for renters to get solar onto their roofs, some of the people who are most vulnerable. As far as other electrification is concerned, there shouldn't be any issue about social housing getting electrification. This is something that government needs to take care of, and our policies cover that. We have an example right here in Gilmore. We had a Green Council in the Shoalhaven, and that Green Council put solar on the roofs of most of the public buildings, all of our community centres, and worked on a solar farm with partners. We've had a green level of government here working effectively to actually bring this about. So I point that out to everybody. And finally, I haven't talked about electric vehicles, but obviously it's the same stuff. The Greens, the big difference with the Greens is, yes, it's easy to say you've got a policy and it's harder to do things. I recognise that. But the Greens have policies too that are about changing the way we collect the funds and making significant funds available to do things differently. And that is around taxing the coal and gas, the fossil fuel providers, not giving them everything for nothing, taxing the big corporations who don't pay their fair share of tax, and taxing billionaires who are super wealthy and sitting on pots of gold and not, in our view, providing enough input for the community. So we have ways of funding these things. And once you fund them, and once you aren't beholden to the big corporates who are the ones who are going to come into Parliament and tell you what to do and ring you up and tell you shouldn't do this because it doesn't work for my business. We don't have any of that because we're not funded by any of those people. We're funded by individuals in the movement who support us. So we are free to do these things. And yes, there are technical difficulties with all implementations, but we are much freer than the big parties.
Awesome. Thanks, Debbie. Now it's time to go to the chat. We've got time for maybe hoping three or four questions. So Bree, can you give us a question to start with?
Yeah, we had a great question from Penny who said, would love to know from the candidates, we'd love to know whether our candidates would support and push for multi-partisan policy on climate action and how they might go about making that happen. Which we'd love to hear.
That is an excellent question. And I will go to Kate first on that. I think
that's a hell yes from me. And I think that one of the strongest forces in a federal parliament for bipartisanship is an independent crossbench with some genuine power. And that is most likely going to occur in a minority government with a strong independent crossbench. And we would be there, and I can see the independents already functioning like this, as the voice of reason in a house of squabble. We need people to stop playing the kind of blame games and the backflips between the two major parties and actually get people to focus on the medium to longer term for the benefit of our kids. And those people doing the patient work of diplomacy between the two warring sides seem to me to be the independents most of the time. So I would be privileged and delighted to join them.
Thanks, Kate. Debbie, what do you think about multi-partisanship?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed, we do. And look, this is our bread and butter. This is how we get things done. We've been getting things done this way for a long time. Remember Julia Gillard, remember getting child dental into Medicare. Remember all of the things that the Greens do by working with the other parties. It's not always comfortable. It's not always fun for everybody, but we end up with a better outcome, and that is the bread and butter of the Greens. And we will very happily work with independents who have also in the last parliament in particular joined into this process and made a very positive contribution. And the Labor Party ultimately are very good at it too. The Liberals, not so much.
Yeah, Fiona, thoughts?
Oh, thank you for that question. Look, going back to probably, I would definitely love multi-partisan support for addressing climate change and our targets and our policies. Look, just going back on evidence from when I entered Parliament in 2019, I think what we saw was, a real effort to address climate change, but the coalition just they would not come to the table. They would not. I think there was, I can't remember the exact figure, but, over 25 different sort of policy stances. So it wasn't until we came to government in 2022 that we enshrined those targets in legislation, and we brought about implementing the policies that we took to the election. So I would say that we always want to do that, and we will work with whoever we can, whichever parties we can. I think the reality is, in some cases, that it is really difficult. I mean, I sat on the nuclear inquiry in late 2019 for the Standing Committee, Parliamentary Committee on Energy and the Environment. So I think it is really difficult. We've got different, obviously, a different government then. So we have seen change now. So we're trying to include and bring people forward. And, I agree, like sometimes we can't get everything we want. So it is about getting to the best solution. But I'll say again, the best solution that we can implement. There is no point in going for something so high that it backfires, and we have a coalition government that wants to bring in nuclear power to take away the incentives from implementing renewables. And that's the reality at this coming federal election. So I just think we need to keep that in mind. So yes, I definitely support multi-partisan action on climate change, but we have to keep it achievable as well.
Okay, thanks, Fiona. Bri, I'm conscious of time. We'll try and get another one or maybe two questions in.
Yeah. Before we get too far away from the original comment, Tina's question is saying that she loves the focus on individual and household level incentives. However, the thing that is despairing about the major party paradigm that we're in as taxpayers as taxpayers prop up the resource industry, and many of whom pay little to no tax. Debbie, you made the Greens position clear, but Kate and Fiona would love to hear your thoughts from you about industry receiving paying no tax.
Do you want me to go?
Yeah.
Look, I think there is sometimes a lot of focus on this. I think we need to stay focused on the transition to renewable energy. The quicker we transition to renewable energy, the quicker we get away from aging coal and gas, and we actually get to where we need. So we know that transitioning to renewables backed up with storage is the cheapest and the quickest way to get more energy into the grid, more renewable energy into the grid. So I think that is what we are focused on as a party. That is why we are upgrading the grid. That is why we're seeing the rollout of more batteries. We've rolled out, a number of community batteries across Gilmore, and we're continuing with that focus. It's why you'll see we're concentrating as well on, for example, microgrids where we can to ensure that we have, particularly during times of natural disaster, more resilient systems. It's while you'll see us really upgrading the grid and moving to other forms of energy, for example, offshore wind. So a lot of those conversations are really difficult, and as I've said, they're quite hard to implement. But I believe the focus needs to be on transitioning as fast as possible and actually to get to those targets, but to reduce our dependence on coal and gas.
Thanks, Fiona. Kate?
I think the question was about how much tax the fossil fuel industries pay and how much they receive from the government in incentives for polluting our planet. About $14 billion last year. We have an incredibly internationally poor level of charging royalties for our resources. We have a very low rate of taxation for the largest polluters and the largest companies working in this space. The question wasn't about backing the transition. The question was about getting the influence and the dollars from the polluters out of our politicians' offices in Canberra. So I think we really need to stop sending quite as many billions of dollars in the direction of the people that we're trying to unscramble the influence of. And absolutely, the people that are making both sides of our system more accountable to that are the community independents. We need to stop the subsidies. We need to start getting a bit more tax. And we are the lucky country with some of the most incredibly in-demand resources for the renewable energy revolution that's coming. And we need to make sure the next time round we don't give it away for free. We actually get some decent royalties and see if we can start fixing housing, education, and a few of the other big picture problems. So yes, I think we need a hell of a lot stronger action on that, and I would like to really wind back the influence that these polluters have in the halls of our parliament.
Awesome. Thanks, Kate. Now, I'm going to try and push one more question, Brie, to just make sure we get people's voice heard.
Yeah. Karen said, how can we protect our environment and wildlife? If we keep clearing land to build more housing and such, which isn't needed, we'd love to know the candidates, how they plan to protect the environment and wildlife in the election.
Yeah. Protect wildlife for house clearing, because we also know that cutting down trees exacerbates climate change. Yeah, that's right. Debbie, I'll give you first, seeing as the last question bypass.
Thank you. Okay, we need to be careful about how we develop for land, obviously. I've heard a suggestion from the Liberal coalition that they are going to freeze the building compliance rules to make it easier for land to be cleared. This is the absolute opposite of what we need to do. We need to have strong environment protection laws. We have loopholes that you can drive buses through or big logging trucks through in our environment protection legislation, and we need to address those things. We didn't succeed in doing that in the last term of Parliament. We came close to a somewhat under-strength EPA, but unfortunately, as we understand it, and Fiona might answer this a bit differently, but as we understand it, a phone call from Western Australia and a mining magnate or somebody pulled it out, and it was pulled from Parliament. There was an agreed legislation and it was pulled from Parliament. We need to address this, but also it is not okay to develop in native bushland at all. It has to stop now, especially on our fragile coastlands. We have significant areas here, and that needs to be addressed. Look, densification in our urban areas is really significantly the answer. It's not any good either to cover our farming land with houses and just spread out onto that either. We really need to focus on good quality densification in our urban areas. That would be my main response to that.
Yeah, there's good planning in urban areas can make massive changes, active transport, sorts of things. That's a whole different topic though. Kate, let me throw to you.
So in order to protect our wildlife and the places that we love, we need environmental protections that have got some teeth, and we need to make sure that the government and its sponsored industries don't keep on making exemptions for themselves to be able to break those rules and get around them. So we need to end native forest logging. We need to get rid of the incredible regional forestry agreements that allow this government-sponsored industry to not apply its own rules to itself. And we really need to make sure that when we are talking about solving the housing crisis, we are looking at infill development, we are looking at medium density, we are looking at things that are co-located to transport. Every time you have a conversation about housing in this country, you will find a developer with a solution rather than a policy which actually creates the diversity of housing stock in the places that we need, that allow for livable cities. So we need to stop with the developer-led solutions to our housing problem. We shouldn't be doing it in greenfield sites. They are too expensive for councils to maintain, and they often get held back until there is just enough of a kind of restriction on supply that the developers can guarantee their profits. And a lot of the time, they're really in the sorts of places in Gilmore where people really want to rent them out for holiday accommodation rather than to provide homes for people in need. So we need to protect our wildlife. We need to stop clearing forests to build Airbnbs, and we need to make sure that we are really backing in housing that is going to solve the 850,000 home shortfall in this country for social housing. So yeah, I think there are lots of solutions to these problems, but at the moment, the loudest voices in the room are the Housing Industry Association and the developers, and not the people who need housing as a human right.
Thanks, Kate. And Fiona?
Yeah, so I'll just answer this in two different stages. So the first relating to housing, so we have a wide range of housing policies. The one that I particularly like and is probably relevant to mention here is our Housing Australia Future Fund, which we legislated. It's a $10 billion fund, and the dividends from that fund get reinvested into social and affordable rental housing. And we're talking about well-located housing close to services. We're not talking about greenfield development. So our policies really focus on that need for more affordable rental housing and social housing. So that's the first thing. And I would just point out that if you're not aware, the Coalition actually have pledged to axe, so to repeal our Housing Australia Future Fund, which would be disastrous, because what it would do would push the emphasis to greenfield housing. So that's the first thing I'd say there. In terms of the environment, the best way that we can get better protections for our environment and our wildlife is to update our national environment laws. And that's what we are doing and have been doing. So stage one was the task to update the national environment laws was so huge. They were so broken under the Samuel Review into the Environment Protection, Biodiversity and Conservation Act, 1999. That was so broken, it was huge. So it had to be broken up into stages. Stage one was the nature repair market and the water trigger, which is passed through the Parliament. Phase two was the stronger, to have a federal environment protection agency, and that's really a tough federal cop on the beat with strong penalties. That's the one that went through the House but was blocked in the Senate by the Greens and the Coalition. We would have got that through last year. That is the EPA that we could have had by now. We are still committed to taking the EPA. Obviously, we want to get that through if we're re-elected. And of course, importantly, phase three is updating the national environment standards. That's how we get stronger protections for our native forests and for our environment. So we are committed to updating our national environmental legislation as we have been doing. But yeah, there's more to do, but yeah, that's what we want to do.
You're on mute.
Yeah, just realised. Thanks, Fiona. We are really pushing time. I'm going to say a massive thank you to our candidates, and I'm going to throw to Sue, who's going to give us a quick overview on preferential voting. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks. I can see there are some really excellent questions in the boxes, so we'll explain what we'll do about those afterwards. Some that are off topic, but very, very important to us, like the one from Kerry Sortel. We will sort that and talk about that maybe between ourselves and get something back. Okay, so on to preferential voting. Look, should we do this? Our audience are going to be intelligent, bright women and all the rest of it, and a few men maybe. I don't know whether we did get any men tonight, but in the end we decided no, we do need to say something because it is different at different elections, and it is so very important to getting the best out of our voting thing. To start with, I'd like to say that tonight is a very good example why preferential voting is so good. We want people with 1 million women, and most of the audience here, and probably all of the audience, want to elect reps that have got good climate policies. And so who are we going to choose? We've got 3 here. How are you going to choose? Or, well, with preferential treatment, preferential voting, you can choose them all, but you still have to make a choice between 1, 2, and 3. In fact, in Gilmore, you're going to have to make a choice from 1 to 8. There are 8 candidates now. In the last week, 4 more people have gone on to the ballot paper. So you will have to number your candidates 1 to 8. Your vote will be disqualified if you don't do that. You can't just do 1, 2, or 3. You must do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If you don't, it's treated as invalid and it's thrown in the bin. So that's the first thing to remind you. There are other times when you don't have to do that, but in this election, you definitely do. Just got to get my prompts back. And that's the best thing about our preferential voting. It's a very democratic and a very strong and powerful way to vote. No vote is wasted. But how does it work? Well, it works a bit like the slide we're showing you up here. The person who gets the least votes is knocked out on the first round. People that voted for that person, their vote then goes to their second candidate. If your second one is knocked out, your vote goes to the third, and so on until we get to the end, or until one of the candidates gets their 50%, and then the counting is over. Now that's another important point. We might not get to counting everybody's vote because we may get a candidate that gets in after just preferences 1, 2, or 3. So who you put for 1, 2, and 3 is really the most important of all. Can you be strategic? Well, yes, you certainly can. If you're saying to yourself, okay, I want a climate-friendly MP for me, and you've now got the choice of that, and if there are more than one, you put your best one, the one you think is best first, second, and third. That is how you can be strategic in your voting. And we, 1 million women, saying that's the clever person. You do it like that. You don't get lazy. You don't put one. Don't worry about the rest. You put the best ones in the order that you find them. What did I have to do next? These other people are so good keeping to their scripts. Okay. There's a vote. Some parties will put out a vote card. This is really just their suggestion to you of how they will get their person in, and not worrying about anything else. They are just suggestions. A vote, how to vote card isn't an instruction that you have to follow if you want that party. It's just a suggestion. If you want that party, you put them one, and then you make the decisions based again on your policies. So best thing to do is to check it all out before the day and know whose policies suit you best, and make the most of it. If I haven't cleared it up for you, I can tell you there's some very funny, very clever videos and educationals on the web. So check them out. You can have a giggle, but you'll learn something at the same time. So I'm going to go back now to Paula, and say,
thanks, Sue.
That's
excellent.
Thanks.
One thing that Debbie also pointed out in the chat is that if you put whoever your first preference is, it actually gets a payment. So it's a really great way of incentivizing and helping out people. So that's why you always put who you want first. And Sue's just alluded to how it works for how the rest of the preferential voting works. So a massive thank you to our candidates for coming tonight and spending time with us and answering questions. We do have quite a lot of questions in the chat, which we will compile, and I'm sure everybody will be happy to provide answers, and then we can distribute those as well. Because, yeah, there's always lots of questions. I find myself trying not to ask a lot of questions too. The other thing is we encourage you to get involved in active democracy. It's so important. Like we've talked about, people getting involved and being interested. We know that it's so important to do that. That's why we're running our She Votes 1 Million Women campaign. We have a form which has got a few tips on things that you can do, levels of action on a general point of view. If you're keen to help out any of the candidates, go and check out their websites. If anybody has said things that actually really hold true to you, go and help them out. Get out there and help. It's brilliant stuff. The other thing we're asking everybody to do is have conversations. So if you or I have 10 conversations about climate, voting, getting active, we will then ask those people to have another 10 conversations. The exponential effect of having 10 conversations and spreading them out could be massive. She Votes is also, we are our champion, we're championing, I cannot say that, for this election, you know, clean, affordable energy now, which is fantastic. We've heard lots of great options on that as well. Lastly, Brodie has put a whole lot of links in the chats to help you research and figure out policies that might not be aligned with what we've talked about tonight. So go and have a look. There's some really, really awesome tools out there to make it super easy, which is great when we're all super time poor. And speaking of time poor, a massive thank you to everybody for coming along tonight. We really appreciate it. Apologies for running over. We really tried to stick, but there's so many good questions that we wanted to try and get a few more in. So yes, thank you and goodbye.
Thanks. Thank you to the candidates too. That was absolutely wonderful for you to come. And it's no coincidence that 3 women. I think there's a scale here of kindness, and you guys are right up there. And the other thing is that I know that these 3 candidates we've got tonight are absolutely fabulous community development advocates. They all just work so hard in this community, nothing to do with politics, just being kind to this community. So I thank them for that too.
Thanks, Sue. Bye, everyone.
Thank you. See you.
Thank you all.
Thanks.